Welcome back to the Why Not podcast, where we explore new ways of living and learn new things. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nations, whose land on which we meet today, and I pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. Today, Pastor and I are going to be discussing our brand new self-experiment of quitting short-form videos for a month.
That's right.
That's right.
Long time since we've done a podcast.
It has been a very long time.
So we're back, Bowen.
We are back.
Back with a new episode.
That's right.
In the first episode of 2026. And we're going to be obviously looking at social media.
That's right.
So today's contents, the stuff we're going to be discussing are going to be the literature search, including the causes of addiction, specifically short form content.
Yes.
Looking at the potential positive impacts and potential negative impacts of short form content.
Yes.
We're going to also discuss our own findings, our own subjective findings about what it was to be quitting short form content for a month.
Yeah.
The challenges with that, the potential changes we saw in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, we'll just discuss if there is even a balance, how we can better our daily routines, knowing that social media in a way is designed to essentially grab our attention. So how we can overcome that and use its advantages and put aside the negatives and the limitations that it gives.
That's right. I think we can start off with discussing why we came to do this challenge, what motivated us to do this,
Sure.
and what we actually did.
Yeah.
So I briefly remember before the start of 2026, we met up at this library. We decided it was time to record a new video, to think of a new idea for what we could record. And we stumbled across this idea of quitting short form content. At the time, we didn't know really what it was going to be like, what consisted of short form content. But we settled at the idea that for the month of January in 2026, we would essentially not be consuming any short form videos. And we defined that as, and this is consistent with the definition that's used across a lot of the literature that I've seen. So short form videos consisting of videos that are anywhere from a couple of seconds to maybe a few minutes long. And it exists in a feed where there's like an endless feed and you can just scroll from one video to the next and to the next and so on. So practically, in most, I would say, popular Western social media apps today, that counts as TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts and the like.
YouTube Shorts,
yes.
yeah.
So
even the Messenger Facebook
yeah.
those as well.
That's kind of like Reels.
And then I think we end up also including Reddit, like Reddit feed.
Unfortunately, we didn't end up including Reddit.
Well, I didn't scroll on Reddit.
Okay. I may or may not have.
And also, I guess it also depends on your feed. Whether it's like text-based or it has like a lot of videos.
Yeah.
And maybe you want to share us a little bit about your experience and your usage with social media in the past prior to this experiment that we did for a month long.
Yeah.
And let's just briefly about your background with social media and your usage.
Sure. So for the sake of this experiment, I didn't include Reddit because Reddit is sort of a mix of text-based information and also occasionally videos popping up. So yeah, mainly TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels. In my case, I've never had a TikTok account, so I've never actually scrolled on TikTok. But I have had YouTube and hence YouTube Shorts for a very long time. So that was for most of my life my primary source of scrolling videos since YouTube Shorts became a thing. And then Instagram, I was also a bit like on and off in terms of my usage on it, but recently, that is somewhere across half of last year, I downloaded it and became engulfed in the YouTube.
I made you download Instagram.
You may have. So
yeah, because everybody uses Instagram. It's just a lot easier way to communicate with everyone.
That's right. For people our age, it's quite an anomaly if you don't use Instagram, which I was. So I downloaded it and became part of the Instagram algorithm for Reels. So for me, it's many shorts and Reels, but not really TikTok.
It's inevitable to be on Instagram at this time of age.
Yeah.
It's a monopoly. It's genuinely a monopoly.
It's right.
Of grabbing our attention. My experience, very similar to yours. I did have a TikTok account for maybe 2 years during high school, 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
But I think I deleted it like during high school as well, like year 12 when I was 18, 17, and never downloaded it since.
That's good.
I remember it was extremely addictive.
Yeah.
And I got out of that, but like but I was also kind of an Instagram user. Like there was periods of time where I would just delete Instagram off my phone, but there was still like my laptop to stay connected and use like the messaging.
Yeah, yeah.
But at the same time, there'd be a lot of times that I would have to download Instagram on my phone. For example, if I'm meeting up with people,
Yes.
I can't just pull out my Mac and check messages. So I would download Instagram.
That's right.
And so there would be times that I would be scrolling on Instagram. But during uni, most of the times I had it deleted. Maybe in first year, I had it downloaded for the most of the year. But second and third year, I remember they're mostly deleted. And similar with YouTube Shorts, I don't have YouTube on my phone. So if I was to ever scroll, it would be on my laptop. And they wouldn't go for YouTube Shorts for me weren't that entertaining as much as Instagram Reels.
Yep.
I don't know, YouTube Shorts just come across a lot more random.
Yeah.
I think the algorithm on Instagram is a lot better designed to grab your attention and not get you bored.
I tend to agree with you. Yeah.
Whereas YouTube Shorts is just like throws random stuff at you. And yeah, that is my overall experience with short form content.
Yep. That's a history of, I guess, how our short form content usage was before starting this experiment.
Maybe objectively speaking, how many hours would you say, like roughly a day on average or like a week on average would you spend?
I think before the experiment started, I would estimate maybe an hour or two a day, depending on if I had like other things going on. If I was busy, obviously it'd be less if I had to focus on that. But yeah, maybe an hour or two a day on average.
Probably similar.
Yeah.
Maybe for me like 30 minutes to an hour a day.
Okay.
And that would mostly take place like from the reels or the videos my friends have sent, like watching them and like just before bed.
That's right.
Maybe just scrolling, have a quick scroll before going into like night mode.
Yeah.
Or just turn it off.
I think it's important to say it's an average estimate as well, because some days I'd probably go like not scrolling
Not
for more than 10
scrolling,
minutes.
and then some days.
But then, some days I'm like, I'll
binge
do a
watching
quick scroll,
4
and then it's
hours.
like,
Yeah,
exactly.
Interesting. We'll talk about why that is.
We
why
will
you
talk
get
about
into
what that
that
is.
binge
I
scrolling.
think before we talk about what we found from our experiences from our experiment, we'll dive into the literature of what we found. So I've spent a couple of hours looking at the literature on short form videos. There's a lot of recurring themes that I've grouped them into. So we can talk about the cognitive deficits that studies have found arise from short form video usage, or short form addiction, sometimes people call it. The effect on our mental health, how repeatedly scrolling short form video sort of reinforces a loop of instant gratification and prevents us from doing more effortful work that requires a longer attention span potentially. Some causes for addiction, such as high levels of stress, or how social media apps are designed to capture our attention and engineered to make sure that we spend as much time on the app as possible. So there are a couple of studies on that, and also the mechanisms for addiction. So for some studies that want to frame short form video, like severe, I guess, excessive use of short form videos as addictions, how that could, how the mechanisms behind that could work. Intentions to quit, so which factors can contribute to people maybe wanting to discontinue using short form videos or social media apps in general. Some counter arguments, such as maybe that moderation in usage is okay, or maybe some positive effects of social media and short form videos, and some other things as well, all from the literature.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And we should also mention that Bowman's done almost all the literature summary. So today's podcast is more going to be like me just asking you about what you found.
Sure.
And yeah, let's get started. Should we go start with the causes for addiction and what?
Let's start with the cognitive deficits. I feel like going through this effort is okay, yeah.
So maybe define what cognitive deficits are and how they measured it in the studies.
Yeah. For me, I grouped everything into cognitive deficits, such as things that, or the ways in which your cognition is affected. So for example, your memory or your attention span or your concentration, and things like that, or your self-control are
Okay,
affected
yep.
the longer you use short-form videos. So I'll also I kind of have done this before, but for the sake of this, pretty much all the studies define short-form videos as videos from a few seconds to a few minutes that exist in a scroll, in a feed where you can scroll an unlimited amount of videos. So all the studies pretty much look at TikTok, Instagram Reels, or YouTube Shorts. So one of those three. And there are a lot of studies that come out of China, so they use Douyin, which is the Chinese version of TikTok. I'll just go through the list of the cognitive deficits that are found popping up again and again from different studies, and as usual, we'll provide a list of all the studies that we looked at for this
In the description.
in the description. Yep. So some of the cognitive deficits include lower concentration, having more distractions for people who use short-form videos, longer response time and less accuracy during a task for what we call is a Stroop task, which is a psychological task where that measures, I think, response inhibition. Basically, it's a task where you have to read two lists of words. One list is where the words of color. So, for example, yellow shown in the color yellow.
Okay.
And the word red in red, and so etc.
Sure,
That's
sure.
to be very easy.
Yep.
And the other list of words is the same thing, like colored words, but in different colors.
Different color, yeah,
It's
I've
meant to
seen
take
it.
you a bit longer, as expected. So people perform worse on that task when they are like excessively use short-form videos. There's also studies finding a correlation between short-form video addiction and a decrease in overall executive control, and specifically self-control, which kind of is expected because you feel like you lose a sense of control if you're just mindlessly scrolling.
Just out of
Yeah.
curiosity, with
Yeah.
some of these studies and the findings, because I haven't really looked into them.
Yeah.
Maybe would you be able to tell me like how like the methods of it? So for example, did they have like a scroll session just before doing the task, or was it like they did it like as they usual? For example, people are habit people.
Yes.
So if you're changing someone's daily routine, that will impact the performance on a certain task.
That's right.
So these studies like can for like the timing of these people scrolling on their phones. For example, they had them scroll the night before and then do the task the next morning, or how did they exactly kind of ensure that it was fair and valid?
As far as I know, I'm going to say the answer to that question is broadly going to be no. So most of the studies that I found, I think, weren't experimental. I'll jump to one literature review that I think pointed out some limitations across a lot of the studies on this topic.
Okay.
Which says that a lot of the studies are limited by cross-sectional designs, which means they rely a lot on self-report. So they basically ask participants, how much time do you scroll? Or they do like a screen time check or something like that. And then they get them to do different like cognitive tasks. So that's one big limitation already. So it's not
That is a
experimental.
very big limitation when it comes to studies, I feel like.
I'm sure there are experimental designs. For now, I can't recall which one was experimental, which one wasn't. So there's downsides to my literature review as well. But yeah, some other limitations are also that not all of the studies standardize the use of the measures. Measures such as like attention, emotion regulation, problematic use, and things like that. So one study might be defining attention as like one type of attention and like use one scale, whereas another study chooses a different one. So that there are going to be some inconsistencies
across
in that
studies as well.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that literature review does recommend that longitudinal studies and experimental research will be needed and better.
Yeah.
But then I think we also have to remember that short-form videos have only been around for a couple of like 4 or 5 years maybe at the time of recording. So all of the studies are very new, and all of the studies are kind of exploratory or at this stage, and we can't have very firm findings in a short amount of time. But
I'd be interested to know how also they sampled the participants. Did they like just sample like if someone identified as a short form content, I don't know, someone who's addicted to short form content and put them in like the experimental group, and someone identified they're not and put them in the control group. Was that the case, or did they took like extensive measures to make sure that the participants were the right fit for the corresponding groups? You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Once again, off the top of my head, I don't know how exactly they sampled it. I think most people that they have sampled are young people in general.
I would imagine
Some
so.
studies focusing on adolescents.
That
as
being
well.
said, my grandma's a would make a very good experimental participant. Scrolls 24/7.
My family and most people I know do have a scrolling habit as well. So
Wow.
clearly, it's a very widespread habit that's embedded.
I feel like it's a
in us.
crisis at this point.
You could frame it that way. I think we'll discuss that later as well. I'll also mention some studies name their variable as short form video usage, whereas others use the word addiction, so short form addiction. I think I'll preemptively say at this stage that addiction is a word that does have clinical significance, and I'm sure the studies have had. I know some of them have adapted like addiction scales in the past and replaced the items on that scale with short form video, and just based on that scale assign people whether they are addicted to short form videos and whether they're not.
Okay.
But then also, as far as I know, addiction, short form video addiction isn't like a recognized behavioral addiction that's in any of the major diagnostic like handbooks in the world. So basically, that's just what I'm trying to say. The studies that do use the word addiction probably focus on the more severe users of short form videos, whereas the other ones probably not.
Okay.
But yeah.
I guess that brings me, like, what I'm kind of gathering is the research in this area is relatively new.
Yes.
It would be good to, like, see research where children who grow up, like, we call them the iPad kids nowadays, who grow up watching short form content versus the kids who grew up without them.
Right.
And kind of having them side by side. I feel like that's a much better representative and a true experiment compared to, like, a group of teenagers who, for example, self-identify as a short form content user compared to those who don't. Because even if they don't, it could just be like us. For example, they quit for a month. Yeah. But in reality, we are also victims of addiction of short form content user. And
I would guess most young people today, like a vast majority, probably are users.
Vast majority for sure.
But I do agree with you. Like that's probably a very good longitudinal study that probably is already happening, but we just haven't read the findings at the moment. So, sure, it'll be definitely a better design for it.
Like the scientist part of me is like red flags in these studies for not being very standardized, but at the same time, it's the best we got.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on. So that's cognitive deficiency.
Whoa, there's a couple more.
Yeah, I know. Just getting us back into the literature summary.
Yeah.
Tell us more about the cognitive deficiency findings.
Yeah, a lot of them overlap. So far we've talked about lower concentration, more distractions, lower self-control. I'll just go through this list quickly as possible. So there's also lower attention difficulty, disruption to working memory, cognitive fatigue. Working memory, by the way, is like your ability to manipulate things actively in your short-term memory. There's also stronger associations in attention impairment and poor imagery control. So like, in a way, lower self-control. Higher time distortion, so your perception of time is affected when you scroll for a long time. Lower sustained attention on behavioral tasks. So yeah, effectively the ability to focus on a task for a long time. There's one that found attentional control has a mediating effect on the association between short-form video addiction and academic procrastination, which is to say there is, first of all, a relationship between using short-form video addiction and procrastinating your academic tasks, but then the mechanism behind that is that you're probably lacking the attentional control. So if you spend too much time scrolling, you're basically lacking the ability to focus your attention on the tasks that actually matter. So I think you'll see attentional control pop up again and again. Emotion regulation is another big one. There's another study that looks at the phenomenon of phubbing. Have you heard that word?
No, can you tell me about it?
I think it's a word made up of the two words phone snubbing, which means...
What was that?
Phone snubbing.
Okay, yeah.
So it describes when you're being distracted by your cell phone in the presence of others. In a social situation, in person.
I feel like I've heard of it.
Yeah.
Is it like the same with like when you're eating dinner and then people say don't have your phone on the table because it kind of comes across rude and also it's just like subconsciously you would want to check it.
To discourage phubbing, exactly.
Yeah.
So in a social situation, if you're pulling out your phone to reply to a message to somebody else who's not there or just scrolling on short form videos, that would be an example of phubbing.
So what did they find about this phubbing?
They found that short form videos can undermine your self-control, which then leads to a variety of different behaviors, phubbing being one of them.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, I think there are later on more studies that look at phubbing. And then another study, the final one in this section, which sees that compared to platforms such as Twitter and YouTube, TikTok specifically most significantly degraded people's performance on the prospective memory task, which
Not surprised.
is a task that measures their ability to execute a previously planned action after periods of distraction.
What, can you give me like an example of that?
So for example, I actually have an implicated example of this, which is when, imagine like you're sitting down and you want to get a task done, and then you open up your laptop on your phone, and then you realize that there is some sort of an external stimuli that you have to tend to. So for example, like a notification bubble, like saying you have one unread message, and then you click on it, and then you open up Instagram, and then boom, there's like Reels. And then you start scrolling on Reels for like 3 Reels, and then you're like, oh, I forgot what I actually intended to do. So that would be an example. So I think effectively, this study gives us good evidence to explain why maybe our excessive usage of short form videos and social media apps in general can often distract us from what we intend to do, and then end up not getting things done, basically.
I feel like everybody can relate to that.
Yeah.
Like, there are times I open my phone for a completely different reason,
Yeah.
and it takes me like 20 minutes to realize why I even picked up my phone for.
Yeah.
Wow, it's fascinating. It's actually fascinating how that can even happen.
Yeah.
Okay, what is next on the agenda? Should we move on to mental health and the findings between short form video and its association with mental health?
Sure. With mental health, there's evidence suggesting that with increased short form video use, obviously, overall, it leads to poorer mental health. Specifically, it includes higher levels of stress and anxiety being involved. There's another study that looks at TikTok specifically. You're going to see this pop up again and again. TikTok being of all the different social media apps, the one that causes the most
anxiety and
severe
stress.
effects. Yeah. Causes higher anxiety and depression scores for this one. Another one that links short form video addiction with various mental health problems such as depression, anxiety, stress. One that found short form video addiction is associated with learning burnout among university students, with anxiety symptoms sort of mediating this relationship. So the words you see pop up again and again: stress, anxiety, depression. These are all behavioral side effects that some studies have found arise from short form video usage. Crazy.
Can I add something?
Yes.
I feel like, I don't know, this is obviously not in our literature summary that we've done, and it's just from top of my head. I saw this study where it said that females specifically, their mental health is more impacted by social media. And well, given you've done like a lot of literature summary on short form video, do you think that is related to short form video, or is it just like social media and other aspects of social media?
I don't think the studies I looked at focus on any gender differences, so it's hard for me to think of any specific applications. But yeah, I don't really know.
Okay, that's okay, because
Yeah.
I know social media affects boys and girls differently, especially during their very kind of crucial period of
like adolescence.
puberty. Yeah, exactly. And I was just wondering if short form video had also similar association with it. Because it's part of social media, right?
Yeah, I think you could turn this into a criticism of social media in general, because it probably, like, as you know, social media showcases the highest points of people's lives. It shows ideals, which can probably lead to a lot of issues with self-esteem and body image and concerns like that. So when you're spending excessive time on social media looking at the highlights of other people's lives, there's a lot of like upward comparison happening.
For sure.
So I think that could be a big factor why, but specifically in short form videos, for the literature, I don't think I can take anything out.
That's all right. I thought I might just ask.
Yeah, of course. Okay, yeah, there's another study, which is a qualitative study, one that I'm going to reference sort of consistently throughout this literature section. It's a qualitative study, so they interview not many participants, only 15 students that were aged 19 to 24 in a university somewhere in the US, I think. And in this study for mental health, they found major negative impacts, which included delayed sleeping time, increased procrastination, and experiencing negative emotions and feelings. And namely, a lot of the participants in the study reported scrolling in the evening and late at night around their usual bedtime, which results in them staying up later than they planned and hence delaying their bedtime.
Oh my God.
Something that I can
Isn't this relatable? Isn't this relatable?
So it shows that people... Oh, so earlier you were asking about whether the timing in the day was standardized in a lot of the studies. This one technically isn't. It's self-report, but it's evidence of people showing that they like nighttime is a time where people scroll a lot compared to other times in the day, and it leads to outcomes such as a delayed bedtime and reduced sleep. And then when sleep is affected, a bunch of other things are affected. So there you go.
Out of curiosity, why do you think that is?
From memory, reading that study, I think a lot of the participants said during the day they have a lot of commitments and tasks to get done. And so once they come home, they finish with the day. I think the time from finishing dinner to their bedtime is the most prone to like a lot of scrolling, because that's the time where I guess you don't have a lot of commitments on, and people naturally after finishing a day of work or study want some downtime, and short form video happens to be the most convenient way to get that downtime.
Yeah, very rich in content. And I guess for me, nighttime, like especially after dinner, like period of after eating, it really depends for me. But like from time of getting bed rather than dinner, I would say the time in getting bed and sleeping is like one of the times that I reply to like people's messages from the day that I wasn't able to reply during the day. And I also open their messages. So like, for example, if they've sent like a reel for me, which I think is very common nowadays, like you just check out what your friend sent to you.
Yeah.
And that also signals and it's like a kind of a stimulator for me to get
like
on
a trigger,
reels.
right?
Like a trigger. Yeah, exactly. So I could but it does make sense. The fact that it's like your downtime, the time you get to spend for yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
But
it also alludes to another section we'll talk about later, which is the behavioral design of the apps. How you think it's just like an innocent little trigger, but actually the way that the feed is designed for you is
evil.
Like it's evil. Like the people with the best knowledge on psychology in the world are engineering this digital space for you to make you spend as much time on as possible. So we'll talk about that later as well. But yeah, it's definitely a bigger reason why people end up scrolling longer than they intend to. But yeah.
Very interesting.
Okay.
Did they, by any chance, in their studies include any limitations of their study, or did they include any suggestions of people struggling with this situation? How could they improve their nightly routine per se, or their own experience with short form video? Yes,
but not in this study, and I can't remember which one is what. So I
from your memory, just like.
So give me 1 second. Let me go through this.
That's okay.
I can casually pause this.
A few moments later.
Okay, I've done my best at looking through it. I can't find it. I'm sorry. Let's just move on with the list.
Okay.
Okay.
Then what do you want to say?
We'll move on to the next section, which is instant gratification.
Oh, so you're going to cover what I asked.
Well, I don't know. My response to your question is, I'm sorry, but I don't know what the question is. Okay, from like, forget the literature, right?
Yeah.
My own recommendation, if you're going into bed, don't take your phone with you. Read a book or something like that, because the algorithms are crazy and they will steal your attention. So,
wow.
You end up having a delayed bedtime. I don't know. Yeah. Do you have your own suggestion as well?
Well, what I do, I've been a victim.
Yeah.
I've been a victim.
Same, for many years.
And I don't really know. Okay, I do have a suggestion actually. Yeah. And I saw this from Brian Johnson's video. Do you know Brian Johnson?
Is he the biohacker?
Yeah, he's the guy who is just trying to max his life.
Yeah,
so
I know.
He has like a Don't Die project, I believe. And he gave like this really good advice, which on your phone you can go on grayscale and you can like create a shortcut where you press the power button 3 times and it like, instead of your normal light, it turns into a light mode where it's like projecting you red lights rather than your usual phone. My phone's recording right now, but I'll show you after. And what it does, first of all, it creates a more sleepy mode for you because
Yeah.
red light helps
Yes.
with you to fall asleep compared to the blue light. And second of all, it takes the satisfaction of scrolling reels away because it's not in color mode anymore.
Yeah.
And we know color is very helpful with keeping you engaged and awake. So when you're taking that away and also inducing sleepiness,
Yeah.
it helps you fall asleep and be more likely to put your phone away.
Interesting. I see. I don't think I've heard of red light, and they say grayscale as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the way you turn on the red light is through
Yeah.
the grayscale setting.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
And
yeah.
I've been finding that pretty helpful for myself.
Okay.
Maybe I'll talk about it more after. You could implement it too, now that I think about it. It's a very, very good suggestion for people who are struggling to turn off their phone right before bed.
100%. I only use the night shift mode. That's in Apple.
It's kind of like similar vibe, but it turns your whole phone red.
Right.
Rather than like just picking and choosing kind
I
of.
feel like I should experiment with that now. Yeah. Okay. Next section.
Should we move on to the instant gratification and why short form video is so addictive?
Yeah, let's do that. So we've talked about cognitive deficits, mental health. Another recurring thing that I found pop up is studies talk about the idea that when you spend an excessive amount of time on short form videos, it reinforces this loop of instant gratification, and it sort of limits your ability to actually use your effort on cognitive tasks that require more time to do. So there are a couple of quotes I want to read out. One is from this study by Yan and colleagues from 2024, which reads, "Short form videos, being self-stimulating and content-rich, capture attention with minimal psychological effort. Prolonged consumption of such content may primarily engage the lower order cortical brain regions, such as those associated with emotional processing, and suppress activity in higher order areas responsible for self-control and attention." That's one quote. I think it's quite relevant, and it captures a lot of what we're trying to say, because when you're in that sort of a zone of scrolling, you're not really, your self-control is compensated because you're not doing what you otherwise would want to do, such as focusing on another task, and your attention is sort of being trapped in this feed that you have on your phone and not focus on other things. And you just sort of instant gratification, getting the positive emotions that you want out of it.
Of course.
Yeah. So that's one. There is another one, which I shall find now. It's by Nguyen and colleagues in 2025, which reads that short form video consumption and its potential influence on attentional processing can be understood through the lens of Groves and Thompson's 1970 dual theory of habituation sensitization. Don't have to worry about what that theory is, but according to this framework, repeated exposure to highly stimulating, fast-paced content may contribute to habituation, in which users become desensitized to slower, more effortful cognitive tasks such as reading, problem solving, or deep learning. So same idea.
100%. 110% agree with that quote.
And so those are two quotes that I've thought from the studies were pretty interesting. Yeah.
The second one, the part about it being habitual,
Yes.
I find very relatable, because sometimes, like we were speaking about it earlier, how you pick up your phone to do something.
Yes.
For example, reply to your boss's message.
Yes.
And you somehow end up on Instagram Reels. That is like your subconscious just taking you there without you even wanting to do it in the first place.
Yeah.
Or, for example, I don't know, this might be a bit odd, but I do it. I think most people do it. But while you're in the bathroom, like, you start scrolling, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing better to do. You start scrolling. And it's also a habitual thing.
Yeah.
And it's this sort of thing that makes me question why there are not better laws or rules surrounding social media and short form video in general.
Yeah.
And I think governments can do a lot better.
Yeah.
I know like the Australian government has put a ban on the social media for under 16-year-olds.
That's right.
Which I think is a great step forward. I don't know how much of an impact it's actually making. But I just believe even for adults, like when I see my grandma just waking up scrolling and going to bed scrolling, that kind of aches my heart, because it's not, I can't be blaming her.
Yeah.
She's just a victim of these like expert psychologists who have dedicated their lives studying this.
Yeah.
and creating a platform where it allows her attention to be so stolen from reality.
Yeah.
And yeah, that being said, I just wanted to share how much of a frustration it is for me and I guess my peers, potentially including you,
Yeah.
to be a victim of this habitual scrolling that
Yeah.
this short form video creates. All right, tell us more about the other studies and other quotes. Did you have any other quotes, or was
Those are the two quotes that I found. I'd just like to add on what you said. I'm also like, from my perspective, I relate to everything that you just. I also consider myself a victim without wanting to deflect blame from myself and just only just criticize the companies. Right? I think, yeah, they've created an environment, a digital environment that makes it really hard to withdraw your attention from these feeds. And I can see pretty much everyone in my family pretty much scrolls, like in their free time before going to bed. I see my family members like fall asleep as they're scrolling. Like I've even done that before.
Yeah.
So it's rampant in everyone that I talk to. So I think it's a very prominent issue, especially with the bedtime thing.
Don't we find it crazy? Like almost everybody knows the negative impacts with
Yes.
short form video.
Yeah.
Almost everybody doesn't want to be doing it.
Yes.
And almost everybody does it. That to me is fascinating.
I think it I even have studies where participants say I spend more time scrolling than I want to, and I'd rather not, but I end up doing it everywhere. Like people
Can't
have this
help it.
self-awareness that they don't want to be doing this, yet they can't help but scroll.
Is there anything else in your life that you feel similarly towards, that you know is not good for you, and yet you spend hours doing it?
Honestly, in my life, probably not.
No.
Yeah. I think short form videos are the most widespread example of this in people's lives today,
Wow.
which speaks volumes.
Potentially video games for me, like
Yeah.
previously, but I haven't been playing video games for a while.
Fun fact from my knowledge, I think, the two biggest diagnostic manuals for like psychological disorders in the world are the DSM-5 and the ICD-11, I think.
Can you tell us what those are?
So Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders and International Classification of Diseases or something like that. No. Okay,
I don't think that helped me much.
They're manuals that help psychologists diagnose mental disorders.
Okay.
And a subcategory of mental disorders is addictions or addictive disorders. A subcategory of that is substance use disorders and like non-substance use disorders, I think. Of the non-substance ones, there are a couple that are recognized in these manuals. So I think gaming addiction is recognized. I think maybe shopping addiction is recognized, and some other ones. Last I checked, like mobile phones, social media, short form videos are not recognized addictions.
Wow.
Granted that they're pretty new, that they only come out in the last 5 years. But when you look at the symptoms that people are showing, the fact that I'll just make a couple comparisons to addiction. So for example, like getting withdrawal symptoms when you're not scrolling, or building a tolerance. So at first, the videos are really entertaining, but then the videos aren't like hitting for you, and you need like more and more and more and like fresher, newer videos. And like having an intention to quit, but then not being able to quit. So like failed attempts at like quitting.
Relapsing.
Relapsing, exactly. And exactly, you want to quit, but then like a week later you're back into it. So you look at how rampant this is in our lifestyles. There are a lot of parallels to recognize addictions that this has, even though I don't want to throw the word addiction around to like every little thing. But short form videos, I think, has a really special case in today's world, being classified as an addiction.
Yeah, I would also. I'm not sure exactly how addiction is diagnosed. I'm sure they have their own scales and their way of objective measurements.
Yeah.
But to me, it just feels addictive. Something like just using addiction as like an everyday word, not a clinical kind of stand view.
Yeah.
I feel like it is something that you just do without even wanting to do it.
Yeah.
And the fact that it subconsciously comes to you.
Usually I'm
pretty
against overusing the word addiction, but I think with short form videos, it's
appropriate to use, right?
It's a special case.
All right.
Yeah. While we're still on this topic of instant gratification, there was one more study that found attentional control has a mediating effect on the positive association between short form videos and academic procrastination, which sort of means when you use short form videos, you're more likely to procrastinate, but that happens because you habitually and addictively use short form videos, which reinforces you instantly seeking instant gratifications and like short pleasures, which basically removes any chance for you to actually focus your attention on the things that matter, like getting a task done, like homework or projects or assignment or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Links well with what we've been talking so far, and I
Yeah.
think a lot of students specifically can relate to that.
100%.
All right.
I want to take a break because this is going to be a really long podcast and I need to go to the toilet. So we will be right back.
2,000 years later.
All right, we are back from our break and we are ready to talk about the causes of addiction, which explain the reasons why maybe people are scrolling. So I'll start off with a couple studies that have found repeatedly stress, or perceived stress, is very positively associated with short form video addiction. Studies finding that school burnout is a major factor that contribute to short form video addiction among adolescents, as students, when they feel stressed, turn to the short form videos as a coping strategy to deal with their stress. Another study that finds among a sample of medical students, stress was associated with short form video addiction. This study, the authors suggest that the mechanisms for this relationship is that stress enhances the students' need for entertainment, and burnout, I suppose, as well. And hence, they compensate by spending time online, which prompt more usage of short-form videos and ultimately lead to their addiction. And they propose that interventions should prioritize stress management strategies and promote healthier alternative coping mechanisms. So I think that was the part where I thought about authors proposing interventions.
Okay.
Yeah, dealing with stress.
Let's discuss causes for addiction.
Yeah.
One thing I want to mention though is I feel like stress is let's just say it's a cause for any kind of negative thing in your life. Addiction, I don't know, relationships, friendships, studies, career.
Yes.
And I feel like almost always there's going to be an association with a stress and a negative thing in your life.
Yeah.
So not surprising that, the
Yes.
fact that perceived stress or stress itself. And I don't know, did they measure like cortisol levels, or was just this also qualitative self-reports from samples?
Off the top of my head, don't know, but I'm going to say I don't think so. I think it was mostly
just
perceived stress.
Perceived stress,
Yeah,
right.
okay.
And I think most people will just report, especially with students nowadays.
Yeah.
And medical students, one of the research was on medical students. They're under a lot of stress.
Yeah.
So no surprise for that. And one thing it kind of stood out was the interventions and
Yes.
how having different coping mechanisms with stress could potentially be something that people could be more aware of as a way of fixing or overcoming the short form video addiction.
Yeah.
What are some like examples did you read, or like from your personal experience, do you think people could implement to overcome their addiction?
Didn't read anything from this study off my memory, but from my personal experience, I think there are always definitely healthier coping mechanisms to short form videos. For example, exercise is a big one, participating in sport.
Fair.
A lot of things like, I don't know, eating healthier. I don't know. What were you thinking?
Well, I was thinking because we already established the fact most short form video consumption happens like in between dinner time and
I
sleep
get
time.
you. Yeah.
So for me, I think implementing like a rule, for example, like you mentioned, putting your phone aside for an hour.
Right.
Or like having nightly routine, for example, reading a book by yourself, with your partner, or doing something non-electronically related right before you sleep. And that basically promotes your behavior of not falling into the trap of scrolling in bed right before you're trying to fall asleep.
Yeah.
Any other coping mechanisms, or for like people who scroll during the day potentially? So you mentioned exercise. What other interventions you think you could help them?
Off the top of my head, I can't think of any, just the exercise was the first thing that popped into my mind. I don't know.
Which is a really great
which-
intervention, by the way.
I think, so the section after this, we're going to talk about behavioral design, but I think the best...
You know what's so funny though? Even like at the gym, I
Yeah.
see people scrolling. So I don't know how much of an impact the stress really makes.
Yeah.
I mean, exercise really makes in
Yeah.
reducing consumption.
Yeah. I think behavioral design is a big one. So clearly stress, it's unsurprising that we find stress is a big driver
Associated, of course.
Yeah, associated with short form video addiction. But that alone is never going to explain why this is like by far the most prominent like addictive behavior people engage in today. I agree with you with what you said about rules. So I think it's good to have for people to have rules that they can like clearly defined rules they can stick to. That may be not bringing phone into bed with you. It could be leaving your phone in another room entirely. So just not having phones in your bedroom.
That's easier said than done
Yeah,
with most
definitely.
people.
Yeah. Everyone's gonna have their own rules. Like obviously. there's
Yeah,
not gonna be
sure.
one rule.
So you have to just think what your ideal nightly routine before bed would be,
Yeah.
and do that.
Yeah.
And if it's scrolling short form videos, then so be it, I guess.
Yeah.
But we know, out of curiosity, did any of these studies, I know you're mostly looking at the causes and the negative, did any of them like look at sleep in particular, like the impacts of sleep?
No, they didn't focus on the impact of sleep, but there were studies. I found a study that referenced some other studies that looked at.
We'll be discussing it later?
No.
No.
So I'll just look at it now.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, they mentioned other studies that looked at how social media. So this is social media, not specifically short form content, led to poor sleep quality, excessive daytime sleepiness. I'm assuming as a result, and sleep disturbances as well, which is also unsurprising because if the last thing before bed is looking at a bunch of blue light going into your eyes, it's going to naturally
Reduce deep sleep, reduce REM
delay
potential.
melatonin secretion, things like that. So, and honestly, that says social media. And that paper was published in 2025, so I wouldn't be surprised if short form videos was part of that social media usage. So yeah, when you delay your bedtime, it negatively affected sleep and nothing good happens after that. So there's that.
Of course, and I think everybody knows that at this point.
Yeah. I'll go back to the qualitative study that I mentioned earlier with the 15 students in uni. They found in that sample that the primary motivations for scrolling short form videos were entertainment, stress coping, and escapism. Escapism being sort of just needing escape from reality of the stresses of your daily life, and entertainment. They sort of all go hand in hand. So yeah, the participants in there noted that they scroll more when they were under periods of high stress, but despite knowledge of their procrastination, often experiencing regret afterwards, they continue to scroll as a form of procrastination.
Vicious, very vicious cycle.
Yeah.
That you just fall into and can't really escape.
Yep. Those are the sort of superficial reasons for the causes of addiction we can talk about, but then I think we can now talk about behavioral design. So how the social media apps have been specifically engineered to grab our attention and make us stay on the apps. So I'll start with one study that found that, once again, TikTok, more than Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts, were associated with phubbing due to lower self-control. So phubbing, we talk about being phone snubbing, so being distracted by your phone in the presence of others. And yeah, that paper was published 2023 to 2024. So at around the time when I would say the algorithms really exploded. And the author suggests that the TikTok's AI-based recommendation algorithm likely increased its immersion for the users, and the perceived effortlessness was also noted to be a contributor to increasing user time on TikTok, because back then videos would immediately appear when a user arrives on a TikTok page before scrolling to a never-ending supply of videos. So I think this is referring to the app, the idea that as soon as you open the app, the first thing that pops up is the short form video feed.
Wow.
And I think when YouTube Shorts were first introduced, that wasn't the case, but then they made that the case for the shorts to appear first, which is really an attention grabby thing to do.
Is that the case?
I did my own experiments on my YouTube account, and I think if the last thing that you did before closing the app, like even if you swipe up, is shorts, the next thing is going to be shorts. But if you're on your home page, it's not going to be on your home page. But like, who stops watching shorts and goes on the home page and then scrolls up, right? So if the last thing is shorts, the first thing is going to be shorts.
Wow.
Yeah.
the extent that these companies go to ensure that you just keep spending more time on the app.
Yeah.
Wild. So just let me clarify this one thing. So you mentioned the study found TikTok was more damaging, or like not more damaging, perhaps not the correct word for it, but people spend more time on TikTok compared to Instagram and YouTube.
Yeah.
And is this sole reason for it is mostly the algorithm and the way it's designed, or do you think it's got to do with like population age of people who use TikTok? Did the study like come up with other potential confounding factors that could have been the case and not just the algorithm itself?
Okay, so I'm not sure if the algorithm controlled for the demographic groups that they were looking at, so if it was the same participants across TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. But reading how the way I worded this finding, I think at the time, so in 2023, obviously that's when AI began to become really prominent. I think it's the fact that TikTok changed the algorithm to be AI-based that made it more addictive than Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts at the time. But I think now I wouldn't be surprised if all of the algorithms are AI-driven. So it would make sense for why it's effectively more addictive than ever before. But yeah, I don't know about others.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was just asking that because I know there's a different culture, for example, in people using Instagram versus TikTok versus YouTube, you know?
I think that's a good point. So I just don't know if they controlled for it, but if they did, I'm sure the demographic differences between the different app users probably also plays a role. Like there might be more children on.
Because, you know, this is like, I could be very wrong in this take, but I think people who use TikTok, it is primarily for short form video.
Very good point.
Whereas with Instagram, there is the other functionalities can be kind of prioritized over Reels for people. So for example, I know in case of me, and I think you as well, the main reason we have Instagram is not for Reels, but rather the convenience it provides in connecting with other people and messaging them.
Yes.
Whereas TikTok is not I don't know how other people use it, but while I was using it, it wasn't the app I was using to connect with other people. It wasn't the app I was using to message my friends.
For TikTok, right?
Yeah, it was just mostly just send short form video.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point that you make. I should take this chance to explain that for our experiment. We didn't stop using Instagram or YouTube. We still use Instagram for like messaging functions. We just wouldn't click on any reels.
Yes, that's correct.
And like YouTube as well. We watch longer videos, which wouldn't go on YouTube Shorts. And with TikTok, it's easier for us because we know that the entire app, the sole purpose of the app is short form videos. Like that's the whole gist of the app, which is easy for people like me to have never had an account, for you to not have an account because you don't need it, because you acknowledge you don't really want short form videos in your life. Whereas with Instagram, it just so happens to be there along with the messaging, so you kind of get sucked into it a little bit. Same with YouTube. But yeah, obviously, I think people who do download TikTok, which I do think is a majority of the population, if I were to guess, they're the people who are happy, or like at least not actively objecting to their attention being spent on short form videos, and hence studies like this are going to report it as being more addicting, which I'm not surprised about. So demographic differences.
Yeah, it just popped to my head because from personal experience, like we just discussed it, TikTok is primarily short form video. And all right, tell us about the next study.
I want to take this chance to talk about something that I told you right before we started recording, which is the idea that social media, for short form video, social media content feeds.
One eternity later.
All right. I was saying something. Something about social media feeds. Right. So in the feed of social media apps with short form video content, there is a sort of filtering mechanism that happens. So whenever like a short or a reel or something like a TikTok is uploaded, the video gets sorted through people watching it, and through actions such as liking the video or watching the video in its entire duration or sending it to their friends and sharing it. These are like positive votes for the videos. Whereas if they instantly scroll past it, that's like a negative vote. And it's like this voting system that goes through hundreds and thousands and millions of users. And the ones that make it to the top are like the most popular videos for a given category or like tag or something like that. And if you haven't been watching like for example shorts for a very long time and you just come back to it, you're going to see like the best of the best content that's been there for like uploaded for the time that you're gone. So that is like the best content to keep you hooked. And then once you become addicted, the algorithm will be more careful in showing you some less popular videos. And then if you're not happy with those ones, you just scroll past and you scroll past. And then the videos, so essentially the more time that you spend, the more you become like a part of the filter that just deems whether a video is funny or not funny or good or like entertaining or not entertaining for others. Whereas the less time you spend, the more you're exposed to the best of the algorithm, and then that keeps you hooked in. It's just like that keeps on going.
Very interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
They know what they're doing.
They do, yeah.
So the person who's already spent hours on it,
Yeah.
they happily give you videos that are not as great.
Yeah.
And then you basically decide whether that video will be pushed out to more people or not.
Yep.
Whereas if you just got them back to it, they show you all the best videos, so you spend more time until
Exactly.
you become the person who gets to kind of decide whether a video should be pushed out or not.
That's basically what I'm saying, yeah.
Fascinating. Unbelievable.
Yep. All right, let's talk about the next subcategory, I think. So now I'll talk about the breakdown of the different categories, types of content that's present in the videos. So I have one study that found that since YouTube Shorts were introduced in 2020/2021, content creators have consistently increased their production of shorts versus regular YouTube videos. And while regular videos target a variety of categories, short form videos target mostly entertainment categories and outperform the regular videos in views, likes per view, but also attracts less comments per view, which when you think about it, it makes sense because when you're scrolling the videos, you can scroll through a way higher quantity of videos because the videos are shorter inherently. You can like the videos more, obviously, but you're less likely to engage than a longer form video. So like leaving a comment, for example. I think all of that makes sense.
That does make sense.
Yeah. Interestingly, I noted that they found that shorts don't outperform regular videos in the education and political categories as they do in the other categories. So these are probably categories that require more you to focus more of your attention and dive deeper into a topic rather than just sort of like, haha, it's a funny video, and then you laugh and like it, send it to your friends, and then leave it at that. So categories matter, and the ones that relate to education and actually learning about information do better when it's a long form video than a short form one.
And it goes well with everything we've discussed today, including the timing of most people's scrolling.
Yep.
So we know that most people scroll right before sleep. And right before sleep, like, just imagine yourself in bed. You're tired, you're sleepy, you know you're going to be going to bed. You know whatever you learn at the time just before bed is probably not going to be sticking with you till next morning.
Yeah.
So even if you come across an educational video, subconsciously you know you're not going to be remembering much of it.
Yeah.
So it's just better well spent enjoying it and watching something funny than something educational.
And like learning in general is something that takes a bit of cognitive effort, whereas right before bed, you're in the mood for entertainment. You want to like relax and just see something funny instead of like, you know, reading about some political theories.
Yeah.
That's why probably those videos aren't getting pushed.
Makes sense. So everything combined.
Yeah.
Everything combined does kind of suggest why the entertainment category outperforms everything else.
Yeah. I'll go to the other qualitative study that I've been coming back to. So the 15 uni students, ages 19 to 24. In that study, they found that the video contents that the participants preferred included funny videos, such as amusing content purely for entertainment, like memes, jokes, pranks, clips of talk shows and comedy. Animal-related videos, such as videos of animals, farm animals to pets. Lifestyle videos, so these are things like vlogs, that documenting people's everyday activities and daily experiences, traveling, things like that. Movie related, so movie recaps, commentaries, brief plots of movies. I get a lot of them on YouTube Shorts. Performance, so like dancing, singing, playing musical instruments. News reports and breaking stories and things like that. And then book recommendations. Yeah, so reviews and things like that. So yeah, when I look at that list of categories, I think it resonates quite closely with my algorithm. It's mostly funny videos.
Yeah, funny,
videos.
football.
Yeah, things like that.
Gym.
Yeah.
Diet. That's basically and sometimes I get news as well.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So far, everything's like very close to my own personal experience.
Yeah. That same study also found that the participants had 3 major perceptions when they scroll the videos. And they are that, 1, they spend more time scrolling than intended. 2 is that other types of digital media consumption have reduced, such as movies, TV shows, and longer videos on YouTube as opposed to shorts. And 3, the short form videos they perceive to be less meaningful than longer videos. When I read those 3 perceptions, I think I share those perceptions as well. They spend more time because of the addictive algorithm, I'm sure we talked about, and how initially you may just want a quick break from
studying, for example.
Exactly. And it turns into hours of scrolling just because you sort of the decreased self-control that we talked about before. And with other types of like longer media, it takes more time and like deliberation to actually pick a movie and a show. Short form video, just pull out your phone and you can see what the algorithm wants you to see. So it's way more convenient, but the participants in the study acknowledge that they have less patience and less available time to be watching the longer videos in its full length. And they find it less meaningful, so they express a desire to watch more movies, as the short form videos don't really provide much useful information or knowledge. And they report having a stronger sense of satisfaction and fulfillment after watching the longer content. Yet after scrolling short form videos, it feels like time wasted. So I wonder if you also...
100%, 100%. And one very common experience I think most people have is when you're trying to pick a movie. Like, I feel like when I'm sitting down with family, probably spend like easily 10 minutes just trying to pick a movie.
Yeah.
And that goes same with, like, for example, watching any long form content, including YouTube.
Yes.
The videos that you're going to click on is the thing that the title is interesting you, or like for the movie, it's the genre that interests you, right?
Yeah.
Whereas with short form video, you don't know what's coming your way.
Yes.
It's just algorithm based. So there's the unexpectancy kind of core value to it that you don't know what's coming to you, but yeah, you're still willing to do it.
Yeah.
And so these perceptions, they all make sense.
Yeah.
I would not watch a long form video of something that I'm not going to enjoy. Whereas short form video, if something comes up that I feel like I'm not interested in, guess what? I'm going to scroll past it very easily.
I think just to add on that, I feel like when you're selecting a movie or a show, there's this idea in psychology called the paradox of choice, which is that when you're making a decision between like very few options, like 2 or 3 options, and you pick any given option, you can feel confident that you made the right choice. Whereas if you're picking between like 20 different options, all of a sudden, when you pick one, even if it's objectively the best choice, now you're stuck in the fear of like thinking, oh, maybe I picked the wrong one because there's another potentially better one. So basically, more options actually end up being less free and more limiting for you. I think that's a similar concept here, because when you're picking a movie, you're picking it from like a catalog of like hundreds of different movies, right?
Yeah.
So you have to put more effort and thought into, is this the one that I want to dedicate my next 2 hours watching or not? Whereas with short form videos, you don't really open your phone and say, oh, I'm going to scroll for the next 2 hours, right? And you don't know what's coming your way. But because of that uncertainty, it can just show you the most entertaining things, and it just keeps appearing on your feed. Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
And I feel like even if you like think about YouTube homepage, the way it's designed, it's so you're not being given a lot of options. It's like probably like 6 options.
Yes.
And usually what you'll notice is all the 6 options are, if not completely, like very decently different topics.
Yes.
So for example, one could be, for example, for me would be football.
Yeah.
The other one would be news. The other one would be like, I don't know, something gym related.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how they have managed to create such a platform that it just like maximizes psychology to an extent that should be illegal.
These
it's
are
just
people,
like brain
they're
hacking.
making millions to design this algorithm just for us to be the lab rats of this.
I feel like my brain's just being hacked.
Yeah.
Because the second you mentioned paradox of choice, I was like, wow. Like even the way my YouTube homepage is designed is to minimize it so I don't feel like I'm missing out on something else.
Yeah. And that feeling when you're having to pick between different options, it's not a pleasant feeling because you have to make sure like, is this what I really want to watch?
Yeah.
Whereas when you just go to the shorts tab in YouTube, and for me watching shorts, I'm just, okay, just show me what you want to show me. I don't like it. Boom, next video.
Exactly.
It takes that away from you, even though the content is so much lower in quality and so much less meaningful, right? And earlier I mentioned that. So ever since I read this study, I've been thinking about the different categories of content I get recommended. For some reason on YouTube Shorts, all I get is like movie and show recaps currently. I don't know why that's the case, but they take like this edited 30-second snippet from this show and then they edit it like, and it just, it's like the most brain rot thing you could possibly imagine, right? But the thing is, I feel like it actually ruins the shows for me because it just spoils different things that happen in the show. So I have to like now consciously think about, is this a show that I want to watch? Because if I actually want to watch it, I'm just going to skip this show because I don't want it spoiled. So I've had like probably 20 different shows spoiled for me at this point because I just know everything that happens from watching.
I know some people that literally watch the shows on TikTok.
Yeah.
Because they have like, people upload like 20 minutes versions of each episode and then you can just watch them continuously.
Yeah. I think that's just...
Maybe you could do that.
The algorithms are crazy. But yeah, anything more to add for this section of behavioral design? Or
Behavioral design. I guess the conclusion is that our brains are being hacked.
Yeah.
And I would like to advocate for a society where this is not possible. It's not possible for them to... There's like self-control, sure.
Yeah.
But to what extent can humans have self-control? Okay. Can we cut that bit? What I was trying to say is that, for example, with rules and laws that we have, it's not that people don't want to do the good thing, but rather kind of encouraging people to do the good thing by punishing them for the bad thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like there should be more rules and laws for these companies to do the right thing,
100%,
which is
100%.
Have a healthier society, push for less time spent on social media, push for better habits, healthier habits, reduce the content that's allowed on the app to be on in the first place.
Yeah.
And I just feel like the governments are trying, but not trying hard enough. And it's because the way these giant companies are moving, these tech companies like Google, I don't know, Amazon, social media, Meta, all of them is at a lot more faster pace than governments can keep up with. And that's because I don't know, maybe it's because these companies are just so rich that they have access to a lot more research facilities than government psychologists or government people do.
I think that's a big reason, and also probably why is there's going to be a lag in the research of evidence coming out for why this is bad. By the time the governments realize and have gotten around to implementing laws, they've found a new way to like exploit your attention. So like short form videos have only been, I don't think there's even any laws on short form video.
There like, is some laws in terms of the content that can be put on it.
For content restrictions.
Yeah, in terms of like the timing that people spend on it, I feel like there should be more heavily monitored in terms of the content that's being able to be put on it.
Yeah.
And
I also think like we're currently talking about like externally at a systematic level, how we can introduce laws and policies to discourage what's happening right now with short form videos, just invading our lives sort of. But then there's also the internal side of like, okay, so the companies are going to do what they want to do. At an individual level, how are we going to withdraw ourselves from this system of just addiction? So are you going to delete the apps? Is that realistic? Because I didn't have Instagram for several years. And then, you know, last year was my third year being a uni student. And I realized, okay, for group assignments, everyone uses Instagram. Everyone just creates a group chat on Instagram to talk about things. I kind of have to download it. So I downloaded it and then I got sucked into the algorithm eventually. So like, you can't, like, it's hard to make black and white rules like these. So how are you going to regulate, even for ourselves, how are you going to make rules? Like, are you going to use Instagram and only message, and then your friends are going to send you reels? Are you going to not watch them? Or like, you know, it's really easy to get sucked into the algorithm.
I agree. And what I want to mention is Australia.
Yeah.
I love Australia.
Yeah.
Well, most aspects of it. But one of the things I like is how they're taking social media seriously.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make a connection here. And the ban on under 16 years old, great ban. I don't know how much of an impact it has made. The intent is there. That's what parents are asking for.
Yeah.
They know the negative impacts. They know the harm it creates. They know, especially for girls, how social media can be so damaging,
Yeah.
and boys included. And they banned it. But I feel like sometimes people forget that adults are also children, but slightly more mature.
Especially when we're scrolling.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
then the thing is, the difference between adults and a child is the fact that they have more self-control. They have a better perception of what is considered productivity, what is considered good for them,
Yeah.
versus something that's considered bad for them or like harmful towards their life in general.
Yes.
And we forget that sometimes adults, the kind of the neurology, the neural connections that we have in our brains, the way it's wired is still very, very similar to a child's.
Yeah.
And if you're kind of making bans on under 16 years old,
Yeah.
surely you know how harmful it is for them, and you would also be able to say it's also harmful for adults.
Yeah.
And I just feel like there should be more regulations and laws,
100%.
even for adults and not just children. It has really significant impact on children, but so does it on adults. What are we doing for adults? Internally, you're speaking, I 100% agree. We need to make changes on a personal level. Like, I try my best every day to minimize my time I spend. You try your time. Everybody, I think most people try to minimize the time they spend on it, but yet it's not happening. And to an extent, it's our fault. We should be putting blame on ourselves and try to fix it ourselves.
But when it's happening to everyone.
But if it's exactly like, to what extent are you going to be blaming the people? If a country, for example, like let's talk about a country that is like corrupt economically, doing really bad, are you going to be blaming the people for it? Or are you going to be blaming the government for not being able to use the resources kind of effectively?
Yeah.
You're going to be blaming the government. That's the same case here. Like, I can't blame every individual person in that country. It'd be like, why aren't you Elon Musk and making like 5 different business, 5 like billion-dollar industries for your economy to grow? Or I can blame the government, which makes the most sense, for creating the opportunities for the people to become the trillionaires, the billionaires, you know? And I mean, I can talk about this all day long, but fundamentally, I believe it's the government's kind of responsibility to cause these changes, to induce these changes for these companies. They're just going to grab more money. Like, they're there for the money, not for the people.
I 100% agree with you. I think people in positions of power have a responsibility to ensure the best outcomes for people. And when I think they can try and convince us that this is not a real issue, but more and more studies are going to come out on short form video addiction and why it's an issue, social media addiction, why that's an issue. And there's a responsibility for policymakers to at least, if not, you know, whether it's laws or policies or like guidelines or regulations, something has to come out to tell us ordinary human beings that this thing that you're doing, that everybody is doing, actually isn't healthy for you and you have to stop. Like things have happened like this before, like decades back, you know, last century, smoking was a big thing when it came out, right? Cigarettes were being made. It was a cool thing. Everybody did it. No one knew that of the extremely adverse effects on your health. Everybody just did it as a cool thing. And then boom, decades later, research comes out, you're getting lung cancer. And then people have to quit smoking. You have to like eliminate it from the culture. I think with smoking, we've come a long way.
Can we talk about vapes? How vapes have just come.
Vapes have just
and
sort of replaced them
the
today.
research have just started on it.
Exactly. And then there's going to be research lag. Then people are going to be dying from vapes. And then it's like I think short form video, okay, it's not killing your body in the way that cigarettes are, but your mind is just important. Like your mental health is just important. So I've heard people make the comparisons that smartphones are the new cigarettes. Back in the day, like you get a group of people who are trying to quit and then one person takes out a cigarette in a social situation, all of a sudden everyone's like smoking and stuff. Nowadays, you look at everyone like gathered at a table, one person is like bored, they take out their phone, next second, you know, everyone's on their phone. Like it's smartphones, I do think are the new cigarettes of today, but just like how the governments have I think the government's done a great job, like reducing smoking by implementing laws. At least in Australia, like for example, you have to smoke outdoors and things like that. There's so many places you can't smoke. You might as well just not smoke. Like that's how it is to be a smoker today. Whereas there are no regulations on scrolling and things like that. And we know for a fact that it has so many adverse effects on our mental health and our connectedness with others and things like that. So yeah, so one way or another, there's got to be more regulations in place.
I hope so. I hope we see them sooner than later.
Yeah.
And I guess one issue with social media is like the accessibility to it. You have accessibility to it 24/7.
Yeah.
And you, as a coming from a government's perspective, you can't really control without breaching people's privacy.
That's right.
That. And I think the only way is to minimize harmful content on it.
Yeah.
And brain rot.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it has no benefit to society.
Or someone from the government has to come out and say 50% of the videos that get recommended has to be like education or something like that, you know? Like it has to be like, yeah, for students, maybe educational or like, yeah, not just absolute brain rot, because that's just removing value from people's life. But anyway, that's what we have to rant about on behavioural design.
Because it's upsetting. It's
it is.
Like,
yeah.
Instagram recently changed the buttons,
Yeah.
like the placement of Reels tab, and
Your phone went black.
your phone has died.
Okay, quick update. Our phones have run out of battery. That's how long we've been recording. So for the rest of the podcast, we're just going to do from whatever
Audio
it was,
podcast.
audio only. All right, the next section in the literature that I had was the mechanism for addiction. I feel like we probably should have talked about this earlier at this stage, but earlier I said addiction, I think it should be using as a term quite conservatively because it has a clinical implication to it. But this is a study by Tian and colleagues in 2025, which uses a psychological theory called opponent processing theories, that is OPT, to explain how short-form videos can influence addiction behavior. Basically, this theory uses a two-step process to explain how emotions and motivational states are regulated over time. So there's two processes. The first is the primary process, which is also called the A process. The second is the opponent process, which is called the B process. The A process is the immediate emotional reaction that you have to a stimulus, and it has a fast onset and a fast offset. So for example, when you're scrolling short-form videos, you're doing it for the pleasure and the novelty of the videos, like a video that you haven't seen before, and you get that stimulation from continuing to scroll, which drives your motivation and your behavior, I guess. The B process is the opposite emotional reaction to that immediate reaction, okay, and it has a slower onset and it's longer lasting. So for example, this is when you stop scrolling and you're getting those withdrawal symptoms such as boredom, irritability, craving, and other withdrawal symptoms that you have. So they last longer because when you're scrolling, you're sort of engaging in the activity, and any time that you're not engaging anymore is the B process that's prominent. And with this theory, the idea is that with potentially addictive stimuli, and I say potentially addictive stimuli because usually it's applied to like drugs and things like that, but in this case we're talking about short-form videos, repeated exposure to these same stimuli will both weaken the A process as the pleasure reduces after each use. So as we talked about, like tolerance, initially short-form videos give you like a very big dopamine hit, but then the longer you spend on it, the less entertaining each video becomes. So it weakens the A process, but it also strengthens the B process because the withdrawal symptoms are going to become stronger and stronger because the more dependent you grow to become on short-form videos. Anytime you're not scrolling, you're feeling like, oh, I want that like hit of dopamine, so let me just get my phone out. So that sort of perpetuates the cycle of addiction. So yeah, eventually with sustained heavy use of short-form videos, essentially addiction, the videos are going to feel less rewarding over time, yet stopping is also going to feel worse. So once you become addicted, scrolling becomes not an activity for pleasure, but rather to escape the feelings of boredom and the discomfort and the other withdrawal symptoms that you have. And as such, despite there being less pleasure, there's a stronger psychological urge to continue scrolling. So you're basically scrolling not because you really enjoy it, but just because you want more and more. So yeah, that's what that study found. Any thoughts on that?
How did they come up with these processes? So like obviously it makes sense, like the primary process process A, where you're like actively engaged in the activity, and process B, where you're not engaged, and hence the withdrawal symptoms and their influence on your behavior.
Yeah.
How did they exactly apply this to short form video? Did they measure like attention? I guess what my point being is, I want to know the exact application of this process, or the opponent process theory onto short form video, and whether it is looking at, for example, the way I think about short form video is not necessarily withdrawal symptoms. I don't think I get withdrawal symptoms, so I'm coming from like a personal experience, and I want to know like the validity of this theory and how exactly they came up with it. Did they have objective measurements, or were they just like a theory that they just proposed?
This is where me not being a scientist is a bit of a limitation in explaining this. As far as I know, I think they used this theory that's often used in addiction to explain how short form addiction, like that, the mechanism behind short form addiction and how that can play out. But I'm not sure as an experiment how they went about to find this. So I don't have a satisfactory answer for that question.
That's okay.
But yeah.
I mean, it makes sense for most other addictions that I can think of. Any addiction, for example, substance use, where
mostly
it has
substance
withdrawal symptoms.
Yeah.
But I can't really apply that for short form video, because it could be like more severe short form video addictions for other people. But I think for the majority of the population, there isn't really withdrawal symptoms. I don't know. Do you experience any withdrawal symptoms?
At times, so I do agree that I think this is more strongly and appropriately applied to substance use disorders. I think it has been for probably many years. But with behavioral addictions, it's lacking that aspect of like a substance actually changing your physiology and your neurobiology, I guess. But in my experience, for example, during the experiment, when I wasn't engaging in scrolling pretty much for the month of January, at least not on Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts, I didn't really have much, well, I guess because I was in the experiment, I didn't have much desire to scroll at all. But it's funny because when February started, we got the permission to start scrolling again. And I would say for the past week, I've been scrolling a fair bit, just experiencing what it's like to scroll again. And in the periods that I'm not scrolling and I'm sort of not committed to completing any tasks, but also not forced to scroll, I feel a stronger urge to scroll again, because my mind is sort of in that, like we talked about earlier, like in that instant gratification, like dopamine sort of loop. And I'm like, I'm kind of bored, but do I really want to commit to, doing this literature search, or do I want to scroll because that's easy and that's simple and that's right in front of me? So I feel I feel stronger urges in that sense. I feel more boredom and discomfort. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, it's a valid criticism to think, is it really fully applied? Yeah.
Okay, because like in terms of the mechanism for short, I guess because it's a relatively new addiction. Because it's a relatively new, and you said it's not even clinically recognized at the moment.
Short form addiction.
Yeah,
it's not.
It's not. Yeah. So that being said, I just can't really. Maybe my personal experience has been a bit different to some people that maybe are more severe short form video consumers.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I don't have anything much to add to the mechanism for addiction particularly.
Yeah. That's just one way that we can explain sort of how the addiction can work. But I don't think, like, you could probably use another model to explain this, but I think it's quite evident that there's a lot of parallel between short form video addiction and other addictions in general, for us to be able to maybe colloquially call it an addiction. Okay. But yeah, we can move on to another study that I have talking about intentions to quit. So we had a study that examined the factors that contributed to short form video users' intentions to discontinue using short form videos. And they divided the factors into cognitive factors and psychological factors. The cognitive factors included social media fatigue, which is a decrease in one's interest to use social media, as well as maladaptive coping, which is that how individuals deal with the perceived stress from excessively scrolling short form videos by adopting a negative solution, such as avoidance or anger, and suffering from feelings of dissatisfaction. For psychological factors, the main one here is life dissatisfaction, so a reflection of how people negatively evaluate their the quality of their life according to their own perceptions after being exposed to an overload of information on short form video applications. So social media fatigue, maladaptive coping, and life dissatisfaction are the 3 factors that contributed to people wanting to quit scrolling.
I think my thoughts are intention on quitting.
Yeah.
One of the main reasons most people quit probably isn't even relevant to the content or the fact that it's short-term videos, but rather the time spent on it.
Yeah.
And the fatigue that it causes, like we talked about the cognitive deficiency and everything. Yeah. So it's more so the consequences rather than the action itself.
Yeah.
And so I think quitting is kind of, the intention to quit is to get that time back, get that cognitive deficiency fixed.
That kind of relates to the life dissatisfaction thing here, because if you're spending too much time, it's going to decrease your evaluation of your life, the quality of it. You're spending less time elsewhere that matters in your life, and et cetera, et cetera.
Including that, like, if you, I'm just going to ask you and the audience. Yeah. Imagine a day where it's your ideal day. How much of that day do you think you're going to be spending watching short-term video?
0 seconds.
0 seconds, right?
For me.
Almost 0 seconds for most people, I would say, because if you're watching short-term video for the sake of just passing time, you're wasting time. Essentially, that's what you're doing. Because
you don't know what to do with your time. You're asking algorithm, like, tell me what to do with your time. Yeah.
So I think everyone has tried like different ways to reduce their time or even to quit. And I think it's important to give people that toolbox of skills and also just the tools to overcome the addiction and reduce the time they spend on social media. I don't think it's being discussed enough.
Yeah.
I already mentioned one, which was the grayscale and turning on the red light mode before sleep, which has helped me immensely with putting just my phone aside right before bed. But I believe like there should be a lot more ways, including governments kind of changing. For example, I'm going to say this, right?
Yeah.
If there was a law for this companies to have a feature where you can disable reels.
Yes.
So that your app...
For example, even the ability to disable it, right? How
is
crazy is it that we don't have it? We can't turn off YouTube Shorts or Instagram
because
Reels.
they know people don't want to watch it, but yet they're watching it.
Yeah.
That's just mind-baffling.
Why do I have to download an extension on my browser that can hide Reels instead of just being able to turn off in the YouTube app or browser? Right?
Because they know most people are going to be... And this is the type of stuff that I'm saying the governments can do to help the people stay protected from these giant tech companies that are just stealing, grabbing our attention for just ads and money.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I fully agree.
Okay. Counter arguments or alternative perspectives about short form videos and whether the moderation use is okay.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that?
Yeah. I found one article that basically they explicitly distinguish between addictive users and moderate users as well as non-users for TikTok. And this was 3 years ago. But the authors emphasized in that paper that addictive and moderate short-form video users should not be considered the same, and that they found that only addictive users experienced the symptoms such as high levels of depression, anxiety, stress, loneliness, social anxiety, attention problems, and things like that, as well as academic stress, poor academic performances, more bullying, victimization. The list goes on and on. But essentially distinguishing addictive users from people who perhaps are able to use short-form videos in moderation. That's one study on it. My personal thoughts on it is that, yes, I think you could always, you could say anything, too much of anything is bad, obviously. It doesn't have to be exclusive to short-form videos. Like you can overdo anything. But when we're talking about something that's been, going back to behavioral design, something that's been engineered to steal your attention and grab your attention and keep you on the apps for as long as possible, it's quite exploitative, and it's not something that you can easily overdo, like eating broccoli, you know? Like you can eat too much broccoli, but most people can eat it in a healthy amount if they want to, right? It's not something that that's been designed to basically have you overdo it as much as possible. So that's what I think the distinction is.
But you know what you can? Sugar.
Yes.
And companies that make very high density foods.
Processed foods in general, yeah.
To make it more flavorful for your mouth and the receptors in your mouth to be maximizing enjoyment out of it so that you eat more.
And that's why there's discussions and debates about introducing a sugar tax. Why high sugar products should be taxed more as a result, and like, you know, fresh products less so. That's a food comparison to that, but yeah. I think use in moderation theoretically is fine, but when we're talking about something with a high addictive potential by design, maybe for most people, it would be more appropriate to come up with some rules to limit your excessive usage if you're a victim of it.
All right.
Yeah.
So in the case of the study, I guess, are they saying that moderation use is okay? What is the final conclusion?
I think the wording of the authors suggests that they believe that use in moderation is fine because it's only the addictive users that are exhibiting the negative symptoms. But at the end of the day, you know, this was published 3 years ago, where the algorithms probably aren't as rampant as they are today. And as time goes on, I see the trend right now as only more people are going to be spending more and more time on short form videos. So use in moderation is okay, but yeah, like I said, it's probably for most people wiser to focus on implementing rules and things to avoid short form video in the first place.
Sure. And we'll discuss more, I believe, our personal experiences and what benefits we get out of it and if there is any.
Yeah.
So should we move on to experiment, or did you want to...
I have one more point that I wanted to make that came to me as you were speaking just before, which is the directionality of a lot of these studies. So I figured one thing that we haven't explicitly... I haven't found studies talking about interventions for short form video addictions. And, you know, we've talked about like managing your stress, like implementing rules, you know, exercise, reading before bed.
Yeah, like
things
effective
like that.
tools to overcome this addiction.
Yeah. And we say that, but I think one thing we haven't considered is that we have been discussing short form videos as a cause for a lot of these issues, but we haven't thought about a directionality problem where it could be the other way around. Maybe people experiencing more core issues in their life find more ways to spend more time on short form videos. And I think this narrative has been discussed a lot for things like excessive social media use or like gaming addiction, where people who have gaming addictions aren't having the addictions because gaming is inherently so addictive, but because they have other needs, like psychological needs in their life that aren't being met. And then so they have to turn to things like gaming for, like, for example, making friends online, like socializing, or like having something where you can feel competent, like improving in the game, right? This is all in the context of gaming addiction. So with short form videos, maybe you have other areas of your life that you're not fulfilling necessarily. It could be stress management. It could be living a lifestyle that's too burdensome on you and you're not getting a channel to release any of your, you know, built up stress, and hence people turn to the most convenient outcome. So yeah, just focusing on other areas of your life as potential causes for this, for possible addiction as well. But yeah, that's the point that I want to make.
No, I think that would resonate with most people listening, just because I kind of relate to that very heavily, and how sometimes it's due to lack of your other aspects of your life that could cause this addiction. Same with like actually almost all addictions to an extent.
Yeah, actually, yeah, good point. Like, I mean, obviously with substance addictions, drugs are inherently addicting, but then if you have your needs met, you probably don't need to turn to drugs or as an escape, you know what I mean? And people, we've documented people saying, oh, they scroll reels because it's a form of escapism for them, to temporarily take a break from the work that they're doing. Well, if that's the issue, you know, there are healthier forms of escape.
Do push-ups.
For example,
do 20 push-ups.
20 push-ups instead of 20 reels.
Yeah, meditate potentially.
There are so many things.
Journal, do Duolingo.
Learn how to spin a basketball, things like that.
We haven't done that one before. Yeah, I agree that I agree with that because I had gaming addiction myself and it's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard to overcome it. And sometimes it's not necessarily due to lack of other aspects of your life, but the fact that you just get pulled towards it. So in that case scenario, I feel like just completely, if you're someone who struggles with short-term video or social media in generally, and you feel like you have an addiction that you cannot overcome, I feel like the best way to go about it is just deleting it.
Yeah, I definitely
And
agree.
that's what helped me with the games. But otherwise, I think for majority of people that perhaps consider themselves moderate users of social media, it could just be like you need to spend your time somewhere else more effectively.
Yeah, I think so as well.
And that being said, should we talk about the experiment?
Pretty much summarizes the literature search side
Yeah.
of things, so we can talk about our own experiences.
And then we can talk about why we use it, why you scroll, why I
yeah,
scroll.
yeah. Let's go for it.
it'd be hypocritical of us to tell other people not to watch while we watch ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically wanted to investigate the effects of abstinence from short form content on our mental well-being
Yes.
and maybe even physical well-being and social well-being to an extent.
Yes.
I'll touch on those a little bit later. And the hypothesis was abstinence from short form content will produce a net improvement in our mental well-being.
That's right.
Okay. And do you want to talk about, I know you slightly mentioned and touched on the method and how we got to want to do this experiment, but do you want to just mention for the audience to just remember what the rules and the constraints of our experiments were?
Yeah, so a brief summary. Pretty much in our case, we stopped scrolling on TikTok, but we kind of weren't anyway. But Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts specifically. Maybe this is a good time to discuss not including Reddit for me because I'm a big Reddit user. I have been before the experiment, and I found that during the experiment, I was abstaining from Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts. But my Reddit usage may have gone up in the initial case. And it's interesting, I found the algorithm on Reddit, usually it's like sports, news, just discussion, like text-based discussion forums and things like that. In the first few days of January, I found actually more short-form videos on Reddit appearing on my algorithm. Maybe it's the algorithm's way of telling me to get back onto short-form videos. But Reddit is an interesting one because it still has a feed.
A scrollable
you can
feed.
scroll infinitely, but strictly speaking, it didn't fit our
Criteria for.
for this experiment.
Okay.
Yeah, and then after February 1st, we're allowed to scroll for a bit. And right now we're not constrained by anything. But I don't know. What about your experience?
Me, well, we decided before that I was like using short form video on Instagram Reels for the most part. And I mean, I'm guilty of scrolling before bed almost every night.
Yeah.
Inevitably, due to my friends having sent me videos, I watch them and then I get sucked into scrolling myself for a little bit. I try and pull myself back from it and then just close the app and kind of read a book or like, I don't know, journal, whatever. So that was my experience prior, and during our experiment, we quit. And honestly, I didn't find it too difficult.
Yeah.
I feel like the more difficult for me was telling my friends that I can't be watching their videos.
Yeah, we had to do that throughout January.
For like a whole month. Like friends would be sending videos and then I'd be like, sorry, I can't be watching it for this month. I'm doing an experiment. That was a more, I guess, not difficult, but what's the word for it? Like the annoying part of it. Like I didn't like,
I feel you.
Not scrolling wasn't an issue for me.
Yeah.
And so I didn't find it that difficult.
Did you find your life improve significantly in that period?
I would say my sleep.
Oh,
My
okay.
sleep, I would say yes. Like January was a month that I slept pretty well consistently. And my bedtime falling asleep time was very consistent.
I see.
So, for example, with other days, including the week of February that we've just recently finished, there has been days I've slept like an hour later than my usual bedtime,
Yeah.
purely because of the fact that I've been allowed to watch other people's reels and reels myself.
Yeah.
So sleep, I think, improved. But other than that, I can't really pinpoint much.
Okay.
And obviously, as a result of a better sleep, I would say better physical output. I was just telling you, I mean, this is probably like very, not as much directly associated.
Yeah.
But my VO2 max, for example, went from like it had dropped down to 44 in December.
Yeah.
And now that we started February, it's like back up to 49.
Yeah.
So it could.
By the way, VO2 max is just like a measure of fitness, kind of.
Fit,
in a way.
yeah. It's
oxygen sort of use. But yeah.
It's not a causation, but it's certainly like a massive improvement.
Yeah.
Which I'm not saying it's because I've quit social media. That would be a lie, but more so because more exercise time,
Yeah.
better sleep quality, and so
Lots
on.
of good indirect effects in your case. Yeah, for me, I would say probably not that many changes in my sleep. Like that hasn't changed too much. The main thing as I'm looking through my calendar is that through the month of January, I'm not really spending a lot of time like scrolling or like wasting my time away.
You're not meant to scroll anyways.
Yeah, which is good. Like I'm saying that's the difference because once February came back, now all of a sudden I'm seeing like maybe on average at least an hour per day that I'm scrolling.
Wow.
And sometimes it's like a really long session. Sometimes it's like a build up of a lot of short sessions.
Long session.
which is not good. But yeah, it's kind of crazy how easily I just fell back into the algorithm the moment I was given the chance to. I feel like I was going to say something else as well.
Probably your experiences.
Okay, I remember. I wanted to say, we did this experiment in January, and us being uni students, we're not occupied by a lot of work in January necessarily. I know you've been doing a lot of like GAMSAT revision and things like that, but for me, this is not a period where I have to do a lot of work academically. And there was, I'm in holiday, so I can have my downtime with like no guilt or shame. So given that fact, I feel like it's hard for me to say I gained a lot of productivity in this period because there wasn't a lot of productivity expected for myself unless I really was motivated to do something. So I had a good time. I think my life was better without shorts than with it, and like without short form content. But yeah, I think for maybe if we did this experiment like during uni semester or something like that, it would make a much bigger difference because I would actually be spending time being productive instead of needing to be productive and then feeling stressed and then spending an hour on the reels instead.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But for me, like you mentioned, I did have GAMSAT to study for, which I felt like was pretty productive during January because I didn't have an issue with scrolling in the first place. Like it would just mostly happen right before I sleep.
Yeah.
So during the day, it didn't impact me as much. But like I said, I would feel fresh every morning that I would wake up. And consequently, that would just make my days more productive. My GAMSAT study sessions a better session.
Yeah.
And my relationship with my family and my friendships being a lot better. Should we now talk about like some of the negatives effects of quitting?
Of quitting? Yeah, go for it. You start.
Okay, this is like not a controversial take, but maybe a bit of a not common opinion is I felt like reels or like sharing funny content / memes is a great way to connect with your friends and share like news, share like a moment where you both are laughing at a video. And I feel like that was taken away from me. I usually am a person who, I don't know, sends their friends reels and then makes a joke. And that was kind of taken. So most of the conversations were either work related, life related, and not so much reels related, which is what I use Instagram mostly for. Anyways, that was probably the only negative part, but I think I can do without it.
Yeah. I think I agree with you. I'm very much the same in that I scroll reels as well. I see something funny, I send it to my friends, make a joke or something like that, and that was taken away from me in the month of January. But then also, like, yeah, I think I can do without it. Like, it's not, I don't think we have to be feeding this addictive system of reels in order to stay connected with our friends. We can always just find other ways to, you know, meet up and
I
things
agree,
like
stay
that,
connected.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is mostly that.
Any other downsides that you reckon, or that was mainly it?
For not watching reels.
Yeah.
No, honestly,
Yeah?
I don't think there's any downside.
You don't miss out on much. Okay. One more thing I think we should discuss at this stage is, what do we plan to do continue moving forward? Do we want to readopt the rules that we had in January, or do we want to soften it up, or like come up with new rules? What's it going to be?
I like that. I like that question. And for me, like I told you, most of my scrolling used to happen at night, right before bed. And I've recently implemented the red light thing on my phone, where I just triple tap the power button and it turns it red.
Yeah.
And scrolling essentially becomes non-enjoyable.
Okay.
And so moving forward, I think what I'll do is watch the reels my friends send me, and then if they're funny, I send the same reels to my other friends. Kind of like maximize my reel sharing experience and watching at the same time.
Yeah.
So like it doesn't feel like I'm just getting funny reels, but I'm also giving back to the community, my friends.
Yeah.
So they don't feel like I'm just like not sending them anything.
Uh-huh.
So I'll send the ones that are funny from other people to
Yeah.
recycling. But I feel like I personally don't really want to spend that much time scrolling myself.
Yeah.
And specifically right before bed.
I think I can agree with that. I haven't actually thought about exactly what I plan to do moving forward, but I can say my life was better without short form content than with it. With YouTube Shorts, I just don't really gain anything. Spoils a bunch of shows for me that I may or may not watch later. And it's a very low quality experience. I never think back to my scrolling sessions and think, oh, did I really miss out on anything or not? With Reels, for me, it could be a form of like social connection when I see something like funny or relatable with friends and I send it to them. But if I were to readopt the rules, obviously I'd only be receiving and not sending anything, which is a bit like one-sided.
Yeah.
But then I also don't want to scroll myself. I don't want to contribute to this. So it's a bit of a weird state to be in. But I think for my productivity's sake, it's easier to have a hard and fast rule of like just don't scroll. But I'm happy to react to funny things that other people send me. So moving forward, that's probably what I'll do. So no scrolling, only reacting, maybe.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that's the best way to go about it right now. And even though we had this discussion about short form video content, I know there probably is people who are struggling with it.
Yeah.
And I think my personal advice from someone who has been addicted, not to short form content, but other stuff, is to potentially try quitting it for a little while.
Yeah.
And if that works and you feel like it's improved your life, then consider deleting it forever, because you're living your own life.
Yeah.
And if something's is causing you harm, causing your mental health to go down, then just delete it from your life. I'm sure your friends, your true friends, will definitely be understanding and be happily moving to a different platform, such as WhatsApp, such as Messages, where you're not being victimized by this massive algorithm that's made to grab your attention. And for those of us who potentially just use it in moderation, try and think of ways, try and see the type of pattern that you use in short form video content and see what time of the day you spend the most time of it. It can be early in the morning, it can be late at night, it can be during the day, it can be on your break at work.
Yeah.
And think of other positive habits that you could kind of swap that, implement them rather than... So for example, if you're at work in your break, instead of scrolling, you can potentially read a book. You can potentially do 20 push-ups. You can potentially call a family member and talk to them. So I think overall that would be kind of like optimizing your daily life. Any advice from you to audience who are listening?
Yeah, I agree with what you said about switching short form content with like other forms of entertainment or distraction. But in a similar vein to what you said about like ditching the platforms altogether, I want to quickly just describe my approach to not having Instagram for many years in my life, as you would know, because I once had it during like maybe when I was like a year 9 or year 10 in high school, and then I decided to delete my account and leave Instagram because I decided it wasn't good for me. I was spending too much time on it, and people who really needed to connect with, like I was following a lot of people that I sort of knew but didn't talk to, and letting them follow me back, and I wasn't. And I'm not someone to like post a lot or like share a lot of stories. And part of my brain was just like, why am I, not that there's anything wrong with connecting with them, but why am I connected to them? Why am I seeing their stories if I am not really interested in what's going on in their life? And so I deleted my account, and that was that way for several years. And the only reason I downloaded it, as you know now, is because to effectively be able to contribute to, it's to connect with people. It's
communication,
right? Communication, literally, like for group assignments and things like that. But what I sort of want to say is that I am like one example of this working, where if you deem like an app or something to just not be worth your time because it's not necessary, and if you feel like losing connection with people, I would say if it's someone who really cared about you or like someone who's actually important to you, they should find ways to communicate, to like get in touch with you, like whether that's by text messaging or another platform that doesn't embed short form videos as a part of it. If everything that we've mentioned today has convinced you, consider leaving the platform or something like that, right? If you use TikTok right now and you're still listening to this point and you've heard everything that's potentially bad about short form videos, I would suggest deleting TikTok, right? If you're doing it for entertainment, try to seek out better sources of entertainment, because are you really proud of the TikToks that you watch? Or if you're doing it to, send funny content to your friends, can you do that via other platforms like messages, or like find other jokes to share? Like, do you have to use a platform that promotes and is exclusively for short form videos, which we know has so many negative implications? But that's just what I had to say about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely agree with everything you said there. And everybody has their own experiences. Everybody has their own relationship with their social media use, with their short form content watching use.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that everybody makes the decision for themselves.
100%.
And what we're trying to do here is to just spread awareness of the research, the latest research, and our own experience. In no way our experience is everybody else's experience. We're just two subjects in a self-experiment with subjective data. We didn't measure cortisol levels. We didn't measure adrenaline levels. We didn't take perceived stress levels every day.
No, we're just self-reporting everything.
And so do your own experiment. See how you go. See how you go for a month off from social media. See if you see any changes for yourself, and then make a decision.
Yeah.
But what's important is being able to become aware of the issue rather than not being aware of the issue and being the victim of the issue.
Yeah.
So I think today we discussed that issue in great detail, looking at 21 research studies.
Yeah, 21 is I think what we had.
And our own little mini experiment that we had. So hopefully that helped some of you guys to be more aware of the research. It's still a very new field. And that is all I kind of have to say. Anything you would like to add, Bowen?
Not really. I think we had a very comprehensive discussion today. So
extremely comprehensive.
I've said everything I needed to say.
Our phone died as well during this comprehensive podcast episode.
Yeah.
All right.
You can wrap it up for us.
So thank you guys for listening / watching towards the start of the video. And we hope you guys all the best on your journey. And we hope that you find a perfect balance for yourself and your relationship with short form video content.
Yep.
Wishing you guys all the best. This is Parson Bowen from Why Not Podcast. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.